Okay, welcome to the New Legend Podcast, where we discuss and explore and celebrate vintage 4x4s, adventure, family, culture, and being a man in the 21st century. Not going to be a lot of talking about that today. But I'm Sean, here with our co-host Luke.
Hello.
And also joined by two very special guests, dear friends and lifelong domestic partners, Ben and Tyler. What's up, guys?
Morning.
This is exciting, man. These are the boys, man. These are some of the New Legend guys. Not some of. These are the New Legend guys. So we're here today to talk about a very exciting topic. The Terrables, the trucks you see behind you if you're watching this on YouTube. The Terrables is a project and a YouTube sensation. Show about rescuing old forgotten 4x4s. And testing modern man's competence to do what our fathers and grandfathers did before us, and taking these types of old technology rigs on epic adventures and getting there and back, just like Frodo. So that's it. All right, tough crowd this morning. But before we go too much further, this episode is very appropriately brought to you by Kenda Tire, the official tire of the Terrables project, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we run the Kenda Cleaver RTs, 35, 12.5, 17s on Vision steel wheels, except for Ben. He has some Vision Manx 2.
And the Kenda MTs.
Yeah, that's right. Ben is running the Kenda MTs. So really, to date, by a long shot, the most impactful upgrade to these trucks have been the tires and wheels. Would you agree or disagree?
For sure.
So what's been your impression, guys, about the tires?
Well, the only problem with running Kenda's empty is that they aren't full. They're flat. So.
Empty is a joke. Get it. That's a good one, man.
That's good.
But really, Tyler, you've run a lot of different tires and autocrossing in your car background, have had a bunch of Jeeps and run a bunch of different tires. What do you think about the RTs?
I've been very impressed with them. I've actually tried telling a bunch of people that are looking for tires to try them out. I mean, they're reasonably priced compared to other similar tires, and so far on the Fritz bits, they've been amazing. I know we did the Jeep show down in Cambridge.
Yeah,
they were caked full of mud, and they just kept on digging.
Yeah, and that's what one of the things I've been most impressed with is just road noise. Like, they're really quiet.
Yeah,
and even how are the MTs?
They're not as quiet as your guys' tires, but they're still pretty quiet. Yeah, I've had other mud train tires, and they were a lot louder. So. Yeah,
and they've seemed to be wearing really well. We probably have 5,000 miles on them.
And my truck's got a bunch of miles on it, and they're still wearing nice, and they're still quiet.
So so props to Kenda. Thanks for building a good tire, especially a tire like this, something in between an all-terrain and a mud terrain. So we love them. Go check them out online. Kenda Cleaver RT. They also have a ton of other tires for like your wife's minivan and stuff like that. So, or a cool Scout, whatever. Okay, so guys, let's start. Luke and I talk about this a lot, so we've already kind of beat this one down. But for you guys, Tyler, what was your first car and what did it mean to you?
My first car was a 1989 BMW 325.
Really?
Ooh, yep.
I didn't know that was one of your first.
That's what got me hooked on BMWs.
Okay.
Set the pace for all the rest of them.
And what did that car mean to you?
Good question. No, it was. I was a high school kid. I had a sports car. It was not a BMW, where everyone's like, oh, you drive a BMW, it's expensive, all that. No, it was a $3,000 car in high school. It was salvage title, but it was an amazing driving car. I said that's what got me hooked on those cars. I've had 7 of them since, and I think it just started all of that for me.
Like just the joy in driving.
Yes, for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. All right, Ben, how about you, man? First car, kind of what did it mean to you?
My car was much less sweet. It was just it's still sweet. It was a 1993, I think, 92 or 93 Crown Victoria.
The white
LTD.
one. Oh, yeah. That thing was sweet, man.
5.0. Oh, yeah. That thing could not get out
What
of
year
its
was
way.
it?
But it was good. 92 or 93.
Yeah.
It was.
Because it had like
it was pretty
the
early.
HO 302, like the 5-liter in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That thing was
Remarkably square.
Yeah, very square. One time I got pulled over for excessive acceleration. This was in high school, and I was like, I floored it as hard as I could, and all it did was just kind of and I stopped at the speed limit, which it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
But then police officer pulled me over, and he's like, "You know why I pulled you over?" And I was, "No." He's like, "Took off a little fast back there." But
So Ben, you grew up out in like super rural Iowa,
Yeah,
right? Like a
yeah.
farm
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
So what did it mean to you to have a car like that, a sweet Crown Vic?
it meant that I could get places.
Yeah,
and
so
I
freedom.
could go to work, which was big because I worked so that I could go hang out with my friends.
Yep.
And the car was an instrument for that. So it was.
And would you pack your six buddies in there and?
Not usually, because I was usually driving from the farm.
Got it.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah. So because one of the things we talk about a lot in the podcast is just the joy and like the celebration of driving, like just and the freedom that it brings, and it's an interesting reality. They say that this generation of young people right now, so like the kids that are 15, 16, this is like the last generation that will have to learn how to drive to work and to explore and to do things. There's going to be a whole new paradigm of driving. So that's kind of sad to me.
Just shifting more and more towards, I'm just trying to get somewhere.
Yeah, just trying to, and like, I think one of our guests was talking about just that young people, they go, I don't want to learn how to drive. Like, I'll just Uber or do whatever. So, but anyway, so it is cool.
Yeah.
I remember driving around. So I grew up in kind of rural Connecticut, so different than rural Iowa. More like dairy farms, very hilly. And my brother was 2
More
years
like
old.
hillbilly.
Hillbilly, not a little bit, yeah, probably. But my brother was 2 years older than me, so we just my parents were super cool. My dad is a car guy, and so we just had a lot of cars around. So I remember like 14 years old ripping around this Toyota Corona station wagon, manual transmission, and this cop drove by, and I'm like, oh, how do you know? That's crazy. And I was all scared.
Just paranoid as heck.
Just super paranoid. And then, but I loved it, man. One other funny story. I was really, when I was 15, I started getting into C10 Chevy pickups, like 68 to 72 Chevy pickups. My dad bought one for me for my 15th birthday. Kind of lit a flame of like collecting them and just parting them out and trying to get one going. But one time I bought this. It was like a 71, had a 402 big block with a 3 on the tree. And that thing had a lot of torque, so I could do some good burnouts. And I was ripping around this corner, and the door flew open, and I almost fell out. I grabbed the steering wheel, and the door was like, and then it turned funny. I went over this curve. It was pretty fun. So anyway, now let's talk about the Terrables. We're going to introduce the Terrables. So each one of these guys is the steward of a truck. So let's start with you, Luke. So tell just 1 minute, quick. Introduce your Terrible to the world.
Okay, quick 1 minute off camera here, but it's a 1978 Scout Terra. So this is it's like a Scout 2, a little bit longer, sort of the truck version of it.
Yeah, like a non-separate bed,
Yeah.
like an integrated bed.
really unique
pickup.
body style.
Really cool. And the truck that really started the whole Terribles movement.
Yeah, so it's kind of is a truck that a customer brought in and essentially was gonna get scrapped.
It was like his brother's truck, right? And it sat on his farm for like 10 to 15
Something.
years.
It was
Yeah.
seized up, nothing really worked.
Had a weird he already took the 4-speed out of it and put a
that's
3-speed
right, yeah.
manual in it. Those are just junk.
Pure jank.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just said, "Hey, can I have this?" And he said, "Yeah, but I get all these
Rules.
amazing,
Yeah,
There
and
were
then
some
so we'll get into that.
stipulations that came with
Yeah,
it.
so
But-
that's the Terrible. You'll see it in video again. YouTube sensation. Check it out. Tyler.
So behind, also off camera, the Fritz bits. it started out as what we had a customer's truck in, and it was just very structurally shot, all rusted out. And you said that we weren't going to use the tub. You're like, hey, you should build that truck. So then I found another truck, got some parts.
You bought a 1980 from deep in the woods of Iowa, right?
Deep in the woods. The thing was buried. It took me like 2 hours to drag it out and onto a trailer, and
Also
no floors
crazy
in it.
rusty. Yeah.
Yeah, there was the bottom half was completely rotted out of it, pretty much.
Yeah, just a quick little side note. For one thing that's really fascinating about restoring Scouts as a specialty is like how geographically they rust differently.
Yeah.
So like when we see Arizona trucks, sometimes the dirt is like acidic or something, so they kind of rust where dirt gathers. But California trucks, right, they rust from the top down.
Yeah.
So hard tops are kind of shot, windshield frames.
Yeah.
But like the bottoms are typically solid, except for where salt water like drips down and hangs out. But Iowa trucks and Midwest trucks in general definitely rust from the bottom, like bottom, inside, and out.
Oh yeah. It's all that
real bad.
Salt.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fritz Bits currently kind of has a 1980 grill.
1980 grill.
Which 1980 grills, I think it's in camera. You can see the only year, one and only year, with a rectangle headlights.
Which this guy hates.
Some people hate, some people love.
Not my thing. I don't know. To each
But
their
it
own.
works. And yeah, that was on the parts truck. Try to keep some of those parts. It had some real cool pinstriping
Yeah,
on it. Some
super
old
cool.
school touches.
I like it.
But yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, and props to Greg Weeder for his tub. I mean, we're building him. You'll see it this year. A really beautiful Scout 2, but we just couldn't. We can't use rusty tubs. Like it's too difficult to fix, and they're never just quite right. Especially when they're structurally from the inside out gone. So, thank you for that donation, Greg. We will put it to good use. Ben, what do you got? Your truck, the longest ownership of any one of the Terrables class trucks.
This is true. Yeah.
So tell us the story about your truck.
Well, that's a 1971. It's the yellow one back there. Very early model Scout 2. It's not as pieced together as everybody else's, but it has been through a lot of upgrades. So it's got like newer Scout axle, newer transmission, 4-speed, all that sort of stuff.
And what is like your philosophy? Like, because you definitely have a distinct philosophy about the mechanicals of the truck.
Yeah. So the first philosophy is keep it simple. Like, I don't want anything complicated on it. It's got manual brakes, manual steering,
Awesome.
manual transmission.
Yeah.
It's like basically if it breaks, I can fix it with a few wrenches and keep going. It's
cool.
Very simple. Doesn't have any luxuries. It's a soft top, so it's like driving a tractor around. Like that's why it's got a straight 6 in it. And I just remember driving. We had like old straight 6 tractors growing up on the farm, and it just feels like that driving around. Except for I can go a lot faster. So
Yeah,
it's good.
But I love it. Yeah, it's cool too. Like each of the 3 trucks have a bit of difference. Like for example, Luke's Terra, the Terrable, he has no lift.
No lift.
Stock springs.
Are we all 35s?
All 35s.
All
Yeah, so
35s.
That's good.
that's really
I'm
unique.
33s.
33s.
Yeah, because I didn't want to cut my fenders.
Yeah,
That's
right.
true.
Which works on your truck. Like the 33s are really perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other
Again, it keeps it simple. It's smaller tires.
Yep.
Keeps it
Sure.
keeps it from breaking things. So.
But for ours, our trucks were rusty enough that we just went, what the heck? There's no metal there anyway.
Right, yeah.
And Tyler, like you have a vision to like, you always talk about putting 40s on it and
Mostly
1 tons.
joking,
I
but-
know, but you tend to be probably the most extreme driver amongst us.
I'd keep it exciting.
Yeah, the Terrables typically at this point been like the extraction rig because you're the only one with a winch.
Yep.
But I'll introduce the Shenandoah right behind us. It's a 1970 Scout 800. We bought it. I think Ben and I bought it. We went and got it like in 2008 or 9 probably.
Yeah. Yep.
As it was from Shenandoah, Iowa at a hospital. It was like the plow truck.
Yeah.
And so it was super rusty.
Yeah.
Like the whole back
So
half of
bad.
it was basically gone. And so
In the front half too.
In the
It
front
was
half.
like no
So-
floors. You sit down
Yeah.
in it and you sink.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we
it's-
rebuilt, like we did a quick rebuild job on it and basically put it into use. We did the flatbed, but it was all super fast. Like we built it quickly the first time around.
2
It had
days,
an original
yeah.
304 4-speed, and we kept the plow. We used it as our shop plow truck. And for one season, and then we had a massive flood in Ames where it was literally to the top of the steering wheel underwater. And after that, it just never recovered. And it sat for probably
Yeah.
another 8 years, 8 or 9 years.
The thing is, we actually parked it in the backyard of the shop before the flood because it was like leaking
Yeah,
everywhere.
that's right.
Out of like, there was just oil everywhere on it. It was pretty bad.
I'm pretty convinced there was no valve cover gaskets. It would just leak
None at all.
so
Yeah.
bad. And it would go right onto the manifolds and just smoke like crazy. So then I really wanted to be a part of the Terrables. And it was like, I've been talking about it forever to build a new adventure rig. And so we hammered it together in a couple weeks and took it on the Ohio trip, which is truly incredible. Check it out on YouTube. It's a fun show. And so it's got a Chevy 350 because that's what it had. I used a different chassis, and that chassis had a Chevy 350. It's got a Jeep Wagoneer front axle. I think a Scout 2 rear axle.
Real hodgepodge.
It is. It's the most Frankenstein kind of truck out of the bunch, and it also is probably the most unreliable of all of them. It definitely it breaks the most. So we'll see. We'll talk about it more in the future, but I do have some secrets planned that may or may not fit the narrative of the Terrables, but we'll see. So, what is the Terrables? So, we as a company, New Legend, we build really beautiful, very high craft, I would say, Scout 2s and trucks, and we're very selective about those donor trucks that we start with because we really do. We've seen through the years and a lot of experience that what you start with, plus like the amount of attention to detail and quality you put in, gives you the quality on the back end. So there are all the
I would add too that that's not because we can't fix it,
That's right.
right? Like we've fixed trucks that were gone, like
Right.
all the floors, like all the braces and everything there. But it's more of a time, like people want their trucks now, and if you can start with something better and straighter and less rusty, you're gonna get it faster.
Yeah.
And that's part of our philosophy with that too, because we can fix rust. It's not
Right.
it's not
Right.
rocket science. We can do
Yeah.
it.
But it is nice. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's just so nice to start with a clean truck.
It
So we
is.
work really hard at that. So we're left with these Scouts that are too rough to restore. And so,
Getting windy. In here.
Getting windy.
It's really
It's like a class 5
you guys can
windstorm
hear that.
outside right now. So we all love just trucks, and we've all seriously, we can go anywhere, see 80s cars, 70s cars, kind of not a ton of modern
Anything.
stuff, but yeah, we just love it. So we hate to see trucks scrapped. Like the guy that I bought anything Scout from in 2002, he speculated that he crushed over 1,000 Scouts, like parted them out and crushed them. And back then, I guarantee you, 80% of those were way nicer than the Terrables.
This
way
has
nicer.
rust gone.
Yeah, has a little rust hole in the quarter. Smash it.
Yeah.
So we hate you part out these trucks and then you just crush them. We're like, man, why not we do something fun? And like we put modern technology, the appropriate amount of technology into our trucks. So just enough to be reliable, functional, efficient, and have a good level of performance. We keep the aesthetic, the vintage aesthetic. We love that vibe. But we also enjoy the testing of our competency. Like, can we do it? Can we adjust a carburetor? Can we adjust points? Can we fix basic things? And taking these trucks on epic road trips is just what people did. Like when I was a kid, my pops was driving around. We took road trips in a 66, 67 Jeep Wagoneer that had a 327, 3 on the tree. And we'd take that thing on like 1,000-mile road trips. And
Do you ever remember breaking down?
yeah, a couple times. Yeah, where we had to like put the truck on a flatbed and just like we're all crammed in the cab of a flatbed. But not a ton. Like we drove a 69 Blazer across country that was my grandparents from California to Connecticut, and we made it great. So like, but back then there was a different kind of infrastructure in our country. Like you had gas station mechanics on kind of every corner.
Yeah.
So can we, the premise of the Terrables is really simple. Can we do it? Right?
And learning. I mean, I know I've learned a lot. I mean, I know some about other vehicles, but not so much about stock Scouts. I mean, we don't work on stock Scouts.
Yep.
So just having my truck and being somewhat competent with tools and some knowledge, just learning from you guys how to do some of this stuff too.
Yeah.
It was really nice to go out in a group. 'Cause
Yes.
you're not just like, oh crap, I forgot this, or I don't have that, or I don't know how to do this. But together, usually
Right.
we either have the right parts or tools or knowledge.
Yeah.
And outside of the Shenandoah, that is some of the philosophy, because like we could carry one axle shaft, like, and it fits all the trucks. We can carry one whatever, and like it just makes it easier for spare parts.
You're gonna be hosed come Moab.
I'm gonna be hosed, man. I'm telling you, I already am. My truck is broken the most and broken down the most. Like right now, it's broken. It has a broken axle shaft in the front, so I got to tear it apart. And we have a big list to do for our upcoming Moab trip.
Some bigger than others.
Yes. So can we do it? Thus, the Terrables were born, and here we are today. So we fix them, build them up, make them better, take them on epic trips, and then film it and have a lot of fun. And we just kind of celebrate adventure, camp life. Like think of some of the what are some of the highlights of the Terrables trips that we've taken?
Every time I think about the trips that we've taken, it's like pulling into the campsite, set up my hammock, just lay down and look at the stars, man. That's like
That's awesome.
the best part of it.
There's something about just cruising down the highway with a pack of kind of gnarly like trucks.
Yeah.
And just everybody's everybody's looking at you. And so they're either giving thumbs up or like, got this, what the heck is, why are you on the road?
Yeah.
But it's just fun to cruise around in a group like that.
And definitely the people that appreciate them still. Like the first Terrables trip, we met that couple with that Wagoneer.
Yeah.
And we had the really nice restored truck, and they're like, oh yeah, that's really cool, but I'm interested in these.
Yeah.
Like, you guys drove these here?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what's really interesting. One word that comes to mind for me is suffering.
Definitely lots of suffering.
Yeah. Like our last trip we took, it was like late August, early September. It was early September.
September.
Yeah, it should have been great weather, but it was like a heat wave. Thank you, Al
it
Gore,
was
and
like-
climate change.
It's cold on the
You
way
were
out.
cold
Yeah.
on the way
Yeah.
out there.
On the way
'cause
out
you didn't
there.
have doors on your truck on the way out.
That's
there.
right. And so we went to the internet. We went to the Scout Nationals, fun event, and I'm like, I just need doors. I want to buy some
This
used
is
doors.
stupid. I don't want to be cold anymore. I gotta get
Yeah,
some
and
doors.
then that day, like as we're putting the doors on, it's like, man, it's getting kind of hot out. And then it just went, it's like almost triple digits.
Yeah, the
No,
trip
it
home
was
was
triple
like
digits.
95,
Yeah.
100 degrees.
It was a $1.02.
Oh my gosh.
In like middle of Illinois.
And you
when
got
we
all
were
these
driving
holes
through.
in your firewall that are like just spewing engine heat and oil into your cab.
Yeah.
Did your windows roll down? I can't remember if you
yeah,
could get your
made
windows
them roll
down. or not.
down. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Andrew talked about being slightly deaf.
You and Andrew just sweating bullets.
Yeah, we went to Walmart. No, Target. Little higher class. Went to Target and we bought some.
Target.
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 We bought some shorts because we didn't have any shorts, so we were just sweating. But I think overall, it's definitely a different, and that's what I appreciate about like our parents and our grandparents and worse off before that, like great grandparents. It's harder to travel in these vehicles. They don't go as fast, so it takes longer. They get less gas mileage, so you're stopping more often, which is kind of fun. Taking over gas stations is fun.
Exactly.
They don't have AC.
Ours don't, anyway.
Yeah, ours don't. I mean, I'm sure a lot of cars in the 70s and 80s did have AC, but it didn't work very well. There's a lot of wind noise. The ergonomics of the seats is not like Like
Yeah.
Ben's seats and my seats are both like, I have a stock like 71 to 74 seats. Ben, you have 76,
Yeah, the mid back.
the mid backs.
Yep.
But they have like this bar that rides
So
horizontally across the seat that's like right at your tailbone.
bad. Yeah.
So you just get like this searing pain in your tailbone.
It's bad.
It's bad.
So bad.
But that
And it's
is what-
interesting too. Like you don't think about like, oh, I've got my window down. Like a newer car, you're driving around with the windows down. It's like you don't think about it because you're just gonna put it back up as soon as you get on the highway. But when you're cruising down the highway with the windows down for like hours and hours, that like wears you out
Yes.
really bad. Like just the wind noise wears you out. Just
and the
can't
wind
take it
the-
anymore.
No, I wear earmuffs now on all our trips.
Yeah,
'cause
smart.
It's too much.
Our last trip on the way back, I wore earplugs the whole time, so you just can't stand it.
Which then it's interesting because then you don't talk to people.
Yeah.
You're just like on these, you're just in your own headspace, which is kind of actually refreshing
Right.
in a day and age where we're always connected to technology.
Yeah. And that's interesting too, because when you're driving these trucks, trying to do anything on your phone is
Right.
impossible.
Yeah, because you are like a little bit hurting them down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're,
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be doing that while you're driving
Well,
anyway.
but who honestly
Time.
actually obeys those
Yeah,
laws?
you mean you just do it a little bit every now and then, a few seconds, you know.
and like radio, it's hard to listen to music. You have your radio cranked and you barely hear it.
I don't have a radio.
But those are rich, man. I don't have a
CB
radio
cranked.
either. Yeah, we try to use CBs, but you can't hear them very well. So
Hear
that's the one.
anything.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So those are kind of some of the things we love about the Terrables. So why?
We were just talking about suffering.
Right, but that's
It's
what makes
true,
it
it's true.
memorable.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's just
Sticks in your
Good,
in your
good
mind.
and bad memories.
yeah. But I think all good, man. I mean,
I don't know. The last trip on the way back,
This
you
guy
know,
got
Ben,
mad.
I was so angry. I just wanted to get out of my truck so badly. The seat was uncomfortable. It was so hot in there. It was terrible.
I took a wrong turn and we ended up like kind of looping back to this gas station, and I was like filling up my gas and
see
Tyler like
welcome
gets
to
out of his
Ohio
truck
sign.
and people are kind of standing around talking and Tyler's like, let's get going. like
But you guys
"Jeez."
wanted to eat, and I was like, Owen was with me.
Yeah.
I was like, Owen, are you hungry? He's like, no, I'm fine. I was like, you guys can eat, but I'm not stopping. I just want to get home and get out of this thing.
So my truck, but I was also intensely furious because I had no clutch, and then by the end of the trip, like I stopped twice and took my carburetor apart because the float kept sticking open, and so like it would just flood fuel over the vent, like out of the vent right into the throat of the carburetor, and so you could only really drive it like almost full throttle. And so I was just beating on it, and by the time I had to
throttle, no
drop
clutch.
Andrew off at his house in Des Moines, so I had to start it in gear, and it was flooded, so it wouldn't start. And so I was so frustrated. Just like Tyler, I just wanted nothing else but than to get out
And
of that
that
trip.
was at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, 3 a.m. after
12, 15 hours of driving. I can't remember.
in
what we
100
did that
degree
day.
weather, like
Yeah.
super hot, sweaty, just like. But again, man, that builds character, and in my opinion, makes the trip super memorable. Because this is the essence of what we talk about, even with just classic vintage 4x4s in general. Because our new Legend trucks are a way different experience. It's actually really fun, and they're comfortable, and they have good AC. But even in those, contrasting that to taking, like for example, my family, we drive a 1991 Chevy Suburban. Now we did swap a modern 6-liter into it, so it has more power, but it's still a 91 Suburban, so it kind of rides like a little more trucky. And right before I was transitioning between square body Suburbans, and we went to Chicago and we rented a 2017 GMC Yukon XL. And it was like, the kids were like, oh, this is so fancy. But it was just boring. It was just boring. And the lane correction thing, it was driving me nuts.
That actually reminded me, Andrew's been looking for a new vehicle. I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking about old BMWs and
Yeah.
old Toyotas. I always see this thing. It's life's too short to drive boring cars.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of us, it's so true. Like everything I have to change, modify. People are like, why don't you just have something new? It's so boring. You just blend
Yeah.
in with everyone else.
Yeah, and there is a utility to just like buying the minivan and hauling the kids around, and life is
sure.
busy and all that kind of stuff. But we're fortunate to be able to have access to these kind of rigs and access to some experience and knowledge about how to fix them and work on them. So it's really fun. Okay, so what makes a Terrible different than just like a beater?
I think, like I said before we started here, just kind of the vision of it. You know, a lot of around here in Iowa, anyway. You know, you got a bunch of farm kids that have an old beat up Chevy pickup or something, and you know, what do they do with that? They drive it around the farm, they bury it in mud holes, and that's its life. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to do overlanding, we're trying to do trips, trying to actually drive them. Mm-hmm. They are old beat up trucks, but I think we each have a vision. But the end vision is still to use the truck and to drive from point A to point B.
I like it.
Actually travel.
Yeah, that's awesome. What else, guys?
And part of it for me is the respect for the vehicle and respect for the people that owned it before me. Mine was given to me, so it came with a bit of responsibility of like, man, this was cool. Somebody gave this to me. You actually gave it to me, or Brian, Brian gave it to me. So out of respect for you guys, I want to take care of it. And also want to just preserve it because it's a really fun vehicle. It's gotten me a lot of places. There's a lot of memories in it. Since 2010, I think,
Okay,
10 or 11.
Eight or 9 years now.
Yeah. So
that's a lot of your adult life at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome.
That's true.
What else, Luke? What do you think?
I think the challenge, like Tyler was saying, of taking them on a couple 1,000-mile road trips. You need to put in some real quality work if it's gonna last.
Yeah, that's one thing I thought about was maintenance. A lot of times, like just kind of beater trucks, like you just pull them out of the junkyard, do just enough to get it running, and then just go beat the mess out of it and throw it back in the scrap heap. That's not what we're hoping to have these things around for a long time. And we really have grown an affinity for them as characters in our show and just in our lives.
I think as a group too, we push each other to like keep it out of that realm too. Like Tyler was running around without any dash cover on his dash, and it's just bugging me like crazy. It's like, dude, you have to put something on there. It looks so
dash
bad.
pad. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's definitely been a progression because I think at the beginning it was kind of, because we're busy building trucks, obviously. So it's like, let's take this road trip. 2 days before, like, all right, what should we do on our trucks to hopefully we get there? But it's slowly improving. Like, we're taking bigger and bigger road trips. We got to do a little more, continuing to push the envelope on it.
The way I like to think about it is for me, the vision is I'm trying to bridge the gap, and I think we are collectively trying to bridge the gap between a show and a group like Expedition Overland that is very methodical, very precise. They have fun, but it's new rigs, latest and greatest technology.
Right. Crazy budgets. That's not attainable for everybody.
That's right. And like Roadkill, which again, love that show, love those guys. But what kills me about Roadkill is that they'll find a cool vehicle, literally just beat the crap out of it, and then just dispose of it. And that to me is just so difficult. And we also want to portray, like Ben, you said, responsibility, right? Yeah. Like a responsibility of like treading lightly, of not like, we don't just do, while it's hard to resist all the time, but we don't just do like gratuitous burnouts. Like we want to.
I'm not sure any of us can. Well, maybe you.
I'm sure we do a brake stand or two. But just treading lightly, safe practice, like with extraction, with driving practice. Like we want to have. And those are tough to do in old trucks because I don't think any of our trucks have 3-point seat belts or modern safety. Tyler has a roll bar. Ben has a roll bar. I have a B-hoop. Luke has
a fiberglass top.
So we're trying to bridge that gap. So as you watch the show, as you interact with us, definitely talk to us about that. But like we're learning and growing. I came into this with a fair amount of like off-roading experience, like not growing up, but living in Northern California, Hollister Hills, Rubicon, Fordyce. Like we had a crew of guys out there. We did a lot of like rock crawling. But these guys really didn't have any experience off-roading, and so we're kind of learning together, and trying to have fun, but also trying to be family friendly and serious, and just all some good values. Okay, so I got a text from my buddy Kevin, who started working for me when he was like 15. He bought a Scout. He actually had a Scout before he started working for me. We started doing some mods to his truck and took him to the Rubicon. And now, fast forward 15 years, he's like way, way beyond me. He still has a Scout, which is cool. He's got a JK. He's raising his whole family in that kind of off-road adventure lifestyle. But he remembers the progression of his Scout, going from basically a spring under 33s to a spring over 33s, 35s, then 40s, then 1-tons, then like Ford Leafs, then Lynx. So it's gone through then propane and the 350. It's gone through like a full progression. But he just sent me a text. He's in Moab with his family right now. And in, I don't know, 12 years ago, I took my Scout to Moab and I rolled it pretty devastatingly on the Moab Rim Trail. I kind of endoed it and rolled it. It was thrashed. And it was, but it was just very, very exciting and new. And he texted me, he's like, man, just did Moab Rim, not near as exciting as it was 14 years ago in your Scout, because he has a JK, 4-door JK on 40s, and he's like, my wife was literally driving, drinking a Starbucks, like boop, 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 boop. So that's cool though, right? I think that's amazing, like having just enough stuff to make it fun and exciting. Like Ben, no power steering, no ram assist, like manual steering, like bust your thumbs off.
Yeah. That wheel will whip so fast, dude. Last time we were in the polar vortex, I was going through snowbanks, and all of a sudden it just like wham, and like caught my thumb, bashed my elbow against the door, and like I was like,
that's different, man. And
Whip your hand around slightly.
no power, no Hydro Boost brakes. Like, I mean, I think that I have manual brakes as well. Tyler and Luke have vacuum power brakes.
Yeah.
But that changes the way you drive, and it changes the way you do things. Right, as of right now, all the trucks are open differential. So let's talk about this, because we talk about at what point do we lose the vision of the Terrables? For example, if I LS swap the Shenandoah and go to like, 6L80 LS, like does it start to lose the character and vision of the Terrables? So let's talk about the next evolution for the Terrables. Chapter 2, if you will, is progression, if I had to say it in a word. Because we're going to Moab, and you can't just take a truck out of a barn, put fresh gas in it, and go to Moab and actually wheel for a few days and then make it home. So what do you guys think about progression? What makes you worried about that? What are your hesitations? What are your excitements about progressing the trucks, as most people do when they get an old truck?
When I think of progression as far as like off-roading and stuff like that, a lot of times the temptation is bigger is better, right? Like
40s.
More and more and more. But like you put bigger tires on it.
That's right.
Guess what? You got to do a lift. You got a lift and bigger tires. Guess what? You got to do bigger axles, because those tires are going to snap those axles. Then you've got all this weight, and you're like, I need more drivetrain. So then you put a bigger engine in it, and then...
Yeah, it's a scope creep trickle-down effect. Where does it end?
You've spent so much money, so much time upgrading this vehicle to...
Yeah, and you're just moving the weak point.
Right.
It's just shifting from the stub shafts to the drive shaft to the transfer case.
Right.
But that was the thing I appreciate about them right now, is it's very attainable to the common man. Just like very low budget. Like, let's see what we can do, kind of pushing the limits of very basic machines.
I didn't get a chance to say it, but my second philosophy with my I said the first was keep it simple. The second one is actually keep it stock. Like as far as like attainable, like Scout parts that would have been available in the 70s, basically.
Yeah.
The nicest thing I could get in the 70s on my Scout, basically. So that way it's built how it was meant to be built, in the the way that they kind of like engineered it. They found the weak points, they built it a little bit better. So by 1980 they had a pretty difficult to break vehicle, as long as you kept it fairly simple.
Okay, Tyler, I think you have a tiny different philosophy, maybe.
Yes and no. I think it's changed a little bit. I know I always joke around about 1-tons and 40s, which
Rockwells
would be cool.
Kenda, if you're listening,
Yes.
get these guys some 40s.
But I know you and I have talked about it a lot, that it's, like you said, you keep going bigger, you got to make everything bigger, better, stronger, and you're just moving that weak point down the road. But we're not building rock crawlers. We don't have
That's right.
rock gardens or anything here in Iowa. We're building essentially budget overland trucks.
Yeah.
So why go to that extreme? We don't need that. I mean, the trucks are, even with open diffs and how they sit right now, are very capable. I don't think we haven't done anything crazy extreme.
Yeah,
but
beyond the capability.
yeah, but we've done a lot of stuff that they've done very well at and haven't been like, oh no, we can't do this.
Okay, so but to your earlier point, you said you're a guy that just can't leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
And you like so, and I think, Luke, you mentioned the common man. If you look at every forum, the majority of the experience of every person that buys an old classic car, progression is a key thing that drives them. They go like, how do I make it better? How do I make it a little faster? And whether or not it's like the smart decision, because I think you can argue a lot of people that do go nuts, like building, like they took a stock Chevelle and did this crazy resto mod, or took a stock Scout. I think a lot of people would say like, oh, I kind of like, I do. I miss it when it had 33s and a 4-inch lift, and it was challenging to go do moderate trails. And now I need like hardcore rock ledges to have the same kind of fun. But however, so progression is a key part. So, what are some of the things, like, because we've talked about, like, we open diffs, like a locker helps so much. And why wouldn't we? If we can start to say, hey, most guys do equip them. So for example, you have a roof rack on yours, like I have some stuff on my bed, like you have a rooftop tent rack that you made, that's progression, that's not exactly stock. And so because you want it to fit what we want it to do.
Yeah, I think that's part of my, not leaving well enough alone. It was just change, just to be different. Not necessarily the biggest, baddest truck around, but just to be different. Like, you guys know my crazy snorkel ideas, like stuff like that. Just, like you just said, refrex, bumpers, just changing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And purposeful for what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
If you put something on there that's like, oh, this is going to make my sleeping better, or oh, this will make my being able to carry what I need better, storage and that sort of thing.
And there is a reality, like, no matter how you want to think about it, there's a reality to, like, when we've already put 35s, like 33s. So for example, your truck would perform better with a little deeper gears.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So you go to 373s and maybe a limited slip, like now it's
like refinement.
It's refinement. I agree. And there's definitely like too far. You can go too far. But Luke, he's got 307 gears and 35-inch tires, which he's really proud of. But he goes like 68 miles an hour at 1,200 RPMs.
Oh, that's sweet, man.
And my argument to Luke is like, that's cool in Iowa and Ohio. But the second you go to like up in the hills and in the mountains, he's going to be in second and third gear all the time on the highway. And it's going to be annoying.
Yeah.
So like, should we think about like, hey, let's put some lower gears in it. Let's make it a little more correct from an engineering perspective.
The progression is going to come with experience. I mean, kind of like you said, what are we tackling and what's going to be best for that? Because I remember, just as kind of a side note, when I was younger, I was looking at this I Hate Mud forum. And this dude was like, he started out just putting like a 2-inch lift to get bigger tires. And then all of a sudden he was linking. And then just like, and then by a few pages into this forum, he had stripped it down. He's building a tube chassis.
Yeah,
it's like, what the heck, dude? How did this happen? You
should have
got
bought
a
a
good
hood.
deal on tires,
Yeah,
and now
exactly.
you're building a whole new truck.
Right.
But so there is a limit. So you just got to figure out where you fall in that spectrum.
And like going off road, it just taxes systems. Like, so Scouts were designed to go off road, but they also came from the factory with a max 31-inch tire. And so you put 33s or 35s, and now all of a sudden the power steering system was not designed for 33s or 35s. So like your frame fatigue, and these frames are 40 and almost 50 years old, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But so the metal fatigue, so you're talking like, okay, I'll put a steering box brace on it. Now I'll put a different pitman arm to slow down the ratio to like, or a power steering cooler for us. Like for you don't have to worry about that. Just get stronger arms.
He's power steering.
So we're going to dance around that. And I think Luke and I had this conversation about progression. Because for me, like just for example, number one, we have great relationships with great parts manufacturers. And so we want to like test out their stuff, and we want to be testing things that we sell. And so I think we will see some progression in freedom, because Luke and Ben, I think, really would want to keep their trucks more stock, some really sensible upgrades. Like, for example, I have a set of Dynatrac Dana 60 axles, Scout width, 5 lug. Like, why wouldn't I use them? So
Anyone can come up with a reason.
yeah, I have a Ramjet 350 that's fuel injected. Like when we go to Moab, prediction, all of us are going to be frustrated and put in compromising situations because our carburetors are our engines are going to stall when we don't want them to stall. On a side hill, uphill, downhill. That's kind of one of the contributing factors to why I rolled on Moab Rim. I was starting to endo, so I'm like, okay, I'll just floor it and like drive out of it, but it just died. It's like, so hit the gas, engine died, nothing happened, and just flipped. So we'll see. The more epic trips we take, the more we'll continue to evolve this conversation and evolve the trucks. So you guys, so what's next for the Terrables? We're going to be shooting, but we're kind of working on our naming conventions, but our season 3, maybe.
Yeah, Terrables road trip.
We're going to
Season
Overland
3,
Expo West, so come see us there if this airs before that. And we'll be at Expo West, and we'll also be doing some epic trails in Moab. Then in June, we'll be going to Sedona, which will be super fun, doing some cool overlandy kind of trails out there. What's next? What's another? Just we're running out of time, but what is something you'd like to tackle or do in the Terrables?
I think I've told you a few times, but what's the
Mackenzie?
Oh
man, yeah.
Yes.
Expedition Overland. Props to you guys for excavating that track. We're super stoked. Yeah, we want to.
Yeah, just watching that in their
it's
first one
inspiring.
where they're just out with chainsaws the entire time. Like looks like a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Yeah. That would be epic. Yeah. We'll have to talk to those guys about doing that. Did you ever talk to those guys about doing it?
Not
We should talk to them. Okay, Ben, what do you think?
And I'm game for anywhere. I just love driving that thing. So I'm actually going to take mine on my honeymoon this summer. Getting married in June. So my fiance and I she was like, one of the first times we really talked, she actually saw the Scout and was like, oh, that's a really cool truck. And then she saw it was me. We knew each other. She didn't know it was my truck when she saw it. So it's been a fun thing that we've beat around in, and it's really fun.
So you're going to Colorado?
Yeah. Yep.
So that'd be awesome.
June in the Scout. Yeah. So.
No, think you'll get off road a little bit, go explore
Probably,
some trails.
yeah.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
Super cool. Luke, how about you?
I'm ready for some drag races.
Yes.
I want to do some summer drag races here.
Yeah, we
Slow
talked
drags?
about some
Slow drags.
fast drags.
Medium drags.
We have some
maybe.
really fun ideas that we're gonna do. But so go and drag racing.
Yeah. So if you have somewhere for us to drag race, let us know.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of want to do two places I'm interested in going to. One thing unique about everyone that's listening that's from the Midwest, you can feel our pain, but there's like you have to drive to get to cool places, like especially in a 4x4. There's other things to do, but so driving to Colorado, 10 to 12 hours. Driving to Moab, Utah, 20 hours, and our Terrables probably 30 hours. But Ben, who is a guest, Ben Mars, who's a guest we had on the show, he just texted me about this. I can't remember the name, but in Arkansas, he just said there's some rad kind of places to kind of explore and camp and fish and climb and just really cool off-road stuff in Arkansas. So I'd like to get down there, and I mapped it last night, and it's like 6 hours, 6 to 7 hours from door to door. So for us,
bad.
10 hours, that's definitely doable. And number 2, the South Dakota Adventure Loop. A friend of ours, Ashburton, has done it. He said it was awesome. And so he's been talking about just kind of guiding us and going with us. So look forward to all those
Got a
fun.
lot coming.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. We have a lot of fun. And so Luke, Tyler, Ben, thanks for being on the show this morning at 5 a.m. No, it's like 7. It's not too early. But on this windy, cold day. And we'll see you next time. So